Good evening, folks. Very pleasant good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here to Washington Middle School. My name is Sean Moore, President of the Midstate Chamber of Commerce. We like to make sure that everyone knows the candidates long before you get into November. We need to vote for them, so we hope you will be very, very attentive today. This program is sponsored by Meriden Children First Initiative, the Midstate Chamber of Commerce, Director General Publishing Company. We'd also like to thank the Meriden Public Schools, and specifically Washington Middle School, and Maloney High School as well for their participation. Give them all a hand, please. I'd also like to take a moment and thank our videographer, Casey Mace, who comes to us through Middlesex Community College. We will be doing some taping, editing, and such. It is our goal to get this program on the internet as soon as humanly possible. We will share links with you all. We ask that you share them with all of your friends as well. We think you can get it out there significantly more quickly than using traditional sources. So we ask you to like and share and such when you get that video. And for folks who are unable to attend tonight, please make sure you tell them that they can see that one as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator for this program, Rich Henley. And I went to Portland High School a long time ago. And he is an associate professor and the director of the graduate program in journalism at Quinnipiac University. He's a frequent contributor to National Public Radio and many other news services. And he's been serving as our debate moderator since 2013. So without further ado, Mr. Henley.
I give you greetings from Quinnipiac University. Obviously, you probably know us through our polling institute, but we have 10,000 students across many schools, including law, medicine, engineering, and of course communications. So thanks for having me. It's good to be back in Meriden, and it's good to see Sean again. And we went to Platt together, as he said, many, many years ago. But we'll never forget our 24-6 win over Maloney. At Thanksgiving in 1973, I was number 25, playing defensive back. Just to let you know. I'd like to recognize Assad El-Saadani, who will be our timekeeper. Assad, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it. And I'll recognize the panel who will be asking the questions. Paul Vivian, the director of Meriden Children First Initiative. Lee Toss of the Record Journal, and Pam Fields of Midstate ARC and Midstate Chamber of Commerce. Just a couple of quick reminders. Please remain in the audience throughout the program. And listen attentively to the candidates. They have many interesting things to say that will help shape your view when you go to vote. We appreciate also and expect that the audience will refrain from comments, remarks, or other interruptions or distractions. We want to give as much time as possible to the candidates to reference their points of view and their perspectives and their insights into the many issues that this community faces. And we also want you to show up on November 7th to vote. And with your cooperation, I expect this to be a great program. I'd like to introduce our first panel of candidates for mayor. First, Mayor Kevin Scorpati. And the Reverend Ernestine Holloway, petition candidate. We're going now to see who gets the first question. Here we go. And it will be the Republican Irene Massey. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. So we'll start with candidate Massey, and Paul, will you please ask the first question? 1 minute to respond. Just make sure you're eye and quiet. Thank you.
We'll give it a try.
Okay. With the recent hurricane in Puerto Rico, the city will be experiencing and has been experiencing an influx of families from Puerto Rico. Would you be willing to consider an increase to some city budgets that might include Health and Human Services and also the Board of Education to serve those children and families?
Well, I would say absolutely. Who is going to refuse? I'm sure that we're going to have an influx, and we don't know how many. I mean, it can be 5, it could be 50, but definitely, I think that they should be welcomed into the city and into the family that's going to help them along. I would imagine it would be relatives, and I know if it was me and I had my relatives down there, I definitely would have them. Definitely, yes.
Thank you. Please pass the microphone to candidate Reverend Holloway. She can answer.
Well, hello, everybody. Because yo te hablo mucho español, yo soy una boricua, and I love Puerto Rico. And I know what it is to be in a place where you don't have. I remember I had the fire, and I lost everything. And I had to find my way. And I just can't imagine what the people in Puerto Rico are going through, besides the clips that I've seen on the news. And matter of fact, we're planning to do something for them, because some of the parents that I take care of in the park have kids and grandmothers inside Puerto Rico. And so my heart goes out to them. Will they come to Meriden? I'm pretty sure they will. We have a lovely city. Will our budget increase? Absolutely. Will we have the spots in our schools? I hope so. Because they need bilingual. A lot of them are coming here, and English will be their second language. And I hope that we are prepared to receive them.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yes, thank you very much. And again, thank you to the Midstate Chamber, the Record Journal, and Meriden Children's First. What has happened in Puerto Rico is absolutely devastating. As mayor of a very diverse community, I've been faced with making some decisions, even of late, as to how we can help the Puerto Rican community. Just as recently as this afternoon, when walking through Westfield Meriden, a gentleman came up to me and introduced me to his parents who had just arrived here in Connecticut this morning from Puerto Rico. The United States was founded on helping others, and Meriden is no different. There's no doubt that we will need to find ways to help those that are suffering. We might have to get creative in some ways. However, I know that school readiness was faced with the decision to say, for preschool slots, how are we going to go about helping these victims? It was determined by the board that first we need to prioritize to see what needs are locally in Meriden, and then of course turning to see where we can help with hurricane victims.
All right, thank you. Lee, please direct your question to Reverend Holloway.
Thank you. Meriden is one of 3 cities in Connecticut with facilities capable of processing fracking waste. The city is currently reviewing a proposal to ban the storage of fracking waste. Do you think Meriden should ban the storage of fracking waste? Why or why not?
Well, it got to go somewhere. And I think that out of the 3 cities, I think that we should enlarge it. I think every city should carry their weight. I don't think it should be only 3 cities. I don't think that we should bear the weight of every other city. I think that when we take in things and it comes from the town over, the next town over, they're not doing their fair share. I would say no, but it got to go somewhere. I would say yeah, but do we want all of it? Absolutely not. We don't want all of it. But what I should say is we should take on our own stuff, our own things, and let other communities and other cities take on theirs. It's only fair that everybody has their fair share.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, I was trying to, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, so this resolution was created basically because the environmental hazards that come from fracking waste. So we need to be sensitive to the individuals who live here, all of you, when we need to make that decision. It's not something that we take lightly, and we need to understand the hazards that the fracking waste could have on our environment, on our animals, on our residents, on our businesses, and on our homes. Another discussion that came from this is the transportation of fracking waste. And Meriden is located in the middle of the state with 691 and Route 15 running right through it. And while we can't, put any sort of barriers upon transportation of fracking waste on those highways, we certainly can put restrictions locally, and I think we should, and the council, I think, is working on that now.
Thank you. Pam, please direct your question to Mayor. Mr. Platt. No, I don't need to go yet? Can I need to go? Sorry.
Okay,
My bad.
on this, okay.
Right.
Now, the question was, would we accept from other towns?
Yeah,
What-
Connecticut doesn't. There's no fracking that occurs in Connecticut. A lot of it does occur in Pennsylvania, and they ship that waste out. And Meriden has a company here, Tradeba, who is actually, that company is one of only, 3, I guess, in Connecticut that can actually process this waste. So we would be accepting it from other states.
Right, but why from other states? I mean, are they asking to bring it here, or do they just,
Well, it's like, I guess it's like a
question.
business question, right?
Yeah.
Because this company would profit by being able to process the waste in our city.
We should be able to, if we're gonna make a profit, then possibly yes. But I kind of agree with Kevin, there's a lot to study on this about the waste and pollution, and if we're gonna get rid of it in our state, is this gonna go up in smoke and we're gonna be inhaling this? Then no, I think we should think about it twice. But I really don't know too much on this subject, so I'll pass.
Thank you. Pam, please ask your question to the mayor.
Okay, what is your vision or program now for the city? What are your new ideas to get accomplished in the next 2 years, and how do they differ from your opponents?
Thank you. So I've learned a tremendous amount over the last 2 years, and part of that serving on the city council. I've seen a lot of the work that we've done, whether flood control in downtown. One of the greatest things that I think you can see is the changes that are currently happening in our city. The city is moving forward. We certainly don't want to stop that progression. However, November 7th, no matter what happens, that progress shouldn't and won't stop. So we need to think about what's next on our horizon. East Main Street is seeing a tremendous amount of development. That can't stop. I think business growth in our city needs to be something that we set our minds to over the next 2 years, and it's something we've done. The Meriden Match Program is a small business loan program that the city of Meriden just announced last week. This allows the city of Meriden to contribute to these struggling businesses that helps them reinvest in their businesses downtown, and it certainly helps the small businesses, which is what Meriden, I think, is most proud of. So attracting new businesses and
Thank you
retaining
very
those that are
much.
here.
Irene?
Oh, me? Okay. I love the green. My dog and I take a walk down there every once in a while. Really, it's really, really wonderful. And I've been to the market, and, that's a great opportunity. Meriden has moved along, but I also see a lot of empty storefronts underneath the apartments. My feeling is that we should bring ownership down there, businesses and restaurants that are owned by our citizens. Therefore, they're paying the taxes, we're supporting them, and I don't think it should be outsiders or government. The government does not pay us our taxes, but our citizens pay taxes in their, on their houses and their cars and mortgages and whatever. So I think let's be careful with who we put in there.
Thank you.
Bring it to the homeowners.
Reverend?
Okay, this is what I would like to do. I would like to discuss the mill rate. I think it's very unfair that certain people are paying this high tax, and when you look at their houses, you know for a fact it ain't worth that much. Next time we decide to do the mill rate, maybe we need to shop in-house around Connecticut instead of going out-house. Because every time we outsource it, so to speaking, we get something that's not right. I think the citizens of Meriden pay too much tax. I think that how can we make this city better? Well, this is what I would do. I would create housing for the veterans. I would take them empty factories, gut them out, turn them into apartments, single SROs, single room occupancies, put them in there, let them pay their rent, because that's tax revenue coming in. We have recovery houses and we have 55. We don't need that. What we need to do is model after New York, take one of these other factories, gut it out, turn it into single room occupancy, staff it with all these people that go to college to get all these doctor's degrees that all this time,
Thank you,
put
Reverend.
them in it. That's how we do it.
Thank you. Paul, please direct your question to Ms. Massey.
Yes, I wonder if you could address what you see as the mayor's role in regarding the Choice Neighborhood Initiative. Sure. What do you feel is the mayor's role in the Choice Neighborhood Initiative that the city is involved in?
Oh, boy. The mayor's role. Well, I think the mayor should definitely speak and connect with the people and the citizens of Meriden. I think the mayor should listen to the citizens and bring their voice to the city council. We all know the city council makes the rules, but the mayor can listen to the individuals. And I know as I was city clerk, my door was always open, and I plan, if I am mayor, it will still be open, and any decision that I have to make will be in favor of the citizen.
Thank you. Reverend, your turn at that question. Thank you.
Sorry. I think the role of a mayor is to be not only the choice program, but all programs when it comes to Meriden. I think that, I find that program very interesting. I've been asking for documents about it and I haven't received it to go over it. I have some questions that I'd like to ask about it. I'm still upset over what they did to the people in the mills and how they did it. You know, we say it's a choice program, but the people in the mills didn't have a choice. They lost a lot of things, they mistreated them. And excuse me if it sounds like I'm gonna cry, they made them throw their furniture in the garbage. So I don't know about choice. But I also want to talk about the mayor's role when it comes to Harbor Brook. When those people got bed bugs, and it's been almost 2 years, when their windows are falling out. We already have things that we need to fix. So now we're bringing in another program instead
Thank you,
of fixing
Reverend.
what we got.
We're out of time. Please pass the mic to Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. So for our Choice Neighborhood program, it's something that we've worked together on. The city council has worked, the mayor's past and current is something we work on to better our community. And it really has an impact on all of our residents, a better quality of housing. And from the mayor's perspective, it's not only working with the city councilor, the city manager, who's also in attendance here this evening. It's promoting your city. It's looking at all the positives that are going on. The money that we're getting for some of these programs, including the Choice Neighborhood program, isn't because we're not doing anything. It's because we're out here promoting the progress that's going on in our city, and that needs to continue. It's easy to sit here and look at all the negatives, but to find a solution and to help pass with the city council these new initiatives that are only going to benefit our residents through better quality of housing, especially in our inner district and downtown, is something that we've worked on and prided ourselves on over the last several years.
Thank you. Lee, please direct your question to Reverend Holloway.
Reverend Holloway, several longtime Meriden residents who are undocumented immigrants have been threatened with deportation recently. One, Marco Reyes, has been taking sanctuary in a New Haven church for 10 weeks since August. And the Ramos family, who live on Cook Avenue, they were recently granted a stay on deportation after their son was arrested in a peaceful protest in front of immigration offices in Hartford. Do you think these families should be deported in accordance to the law, or should there be legal avenues provided to allow them to stay in the community?
Well, I think it's interesting that you asked that question. I think this is my stand on it. Every family deserves a right to be heard. It's the American way. Now, do I think they should come in here legally? Absolutely. But then if they obeyed the law, they wouldn't have got here in the first place. And thanks to our nice president and DACA, it put them in a position that it wasn't right for them. It wasn't fair to them. So we need to be fair to them. We need to hear them and judge them on their merit case by case, because everybody isn't the same. You don't know why they came here. You don't know what happened. What is their story? Everybody has a story, so let's hear theirs before we decide to ship people out of the country. And if they're tax paying and they've been here 15 and 20 years and they've served in our military, they deserve a right
Thank
to
you,
be
Reverend.
heard.
Please pass the mic to the Mayor. Thank you.
Unfortunately, at the local level, I wish there were more we could do. I've been on the phone and I've met with Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, Congressman Esty on what can we do? What can we as local officials help? How can we reach out to the families? Regarding the Ramos family, who, good news, did receive a 30-day stay. Bad news, it's only a 30-day stay. I've sought long and hard about what we can do, and unfortunately, it's up to the court system. However, it all starts at the top. And when these immigration policies were first passed to us as lawmakers, it was something that was told to us was going to be just to get the criminals, right? We're only going to go after the bad guys. That wasn't the case. You look at these families that are now having to seek shelter, or the Ramos family who's worried what's going to happen in just a couple of weeks. These are people who don't have as much as a traffic ticket. They've paid their taxes, they own a home, they have kids in this community. They are the reason Meriden is so great. They need to stay here.
Thank you. Ms. Massey, want to turn to that question?
Well, you know, we all have rules to follow. And, you know, every situation, these families is very different. You can't expect, say, from 12-year-olds down to know that they were supposed to become citizens within so many years. They're not even old enough. But yet, when you get your ones that went to college, they should know that they should have went for their citizenship papers. I'm sure they must have heard it along the way. So this is a decision that, you know, you have to make each individual family, and I feel the bottom line is we should follow the law.
Thank you. Pamela, please direct your question to the mayor.
The mayor can be a leader in front, like presiding over council, and behind the scenes with political appointments like boards and commissions. Do you believe that the mayor has a role in leadership beyond running the council meetings, or should it be a pure ceremonial position?
You know, when I first took this position, I heard that term ceremonial daily during the election. However, I'm sure Mayor Santos, who's in the audience this evening, can also realize it's much more than presiding over a council meeting. It's much more than vetoing something that a council passes that you don't necessarily like. I get to help families every single day. My office receives numerous phone calls from complaints of different issues to, unfortunately, families that are facing deportation. I'm fortunate enough to be in a position that I can direct people in the right way and help get them answers. I meet with developers on a weekly basis to bring business into the city. The position that we currently have and the structure we have is made that way so that there's a proper checks and balance system through our government. And currently, I do believe it's working. And to say that it's a strictly ceremonial position is false. I know I've committed and done a lot for this.
Thank you. Irene?
Okay, Meriden, definitely, we have a city manager, and it is a ceremonial mayor. So that's that's what I will follow right now. If there is a charter change, that's different. But when you have a city manager that was hired by the council, he knows what his job is. He answers to the council. So definitely, you know, this should stay as a ceremonial mayor. You can't make decisions and then have the council override the mayor, I wouldn't think. But, you know, I think it all depends on, you know, the council choosing the mayor that will, the city manager. And if the city manager is doing what the council expected him and hired him for, well then, that should stay with the city manager.
Thank you.
Not the mayor.
Wait, Reverend? Thank you.
Well, I happen to be on those boards, and I was appointed by Manny Santos. And I have yet to see any mayor attend any of those meetings. I'm on one for Human Services and the other one for Disability. The boards don't function because the mayor doesn't have an input in it. He hasn't stopped by to see if any of those boards are up and running. How I know? Because I'm on them. Now, what people don't understand, if you have a healthy board, you have a thriving city. The reason why I know is because I came off a board with the mayor of New York City. And that's how he trained us on those boards. We have no transportation here. It stops running at 4:30 and 6 o'clock. We have a transit board that's not up and running and asking questions. So if those boards are functioning and the mayor put his input, it would thrive, and there are things that he wouldn't have to do that the boards would be able to do. But because we don't have that construction
Thank
that
you,
we
Reverend.
need,
We're
it
out of
doesn't get
time.
done.
Paul, please direct your question to Ms. Masson.
Yes.
Thank you.
As mayor, how would you promote the city to businesses? What specific activities or events or pluses of the city would you use, or selling points of the city would you use compared to other cities that they might go to in the state?
Selling points of the city. The citizens are always the selling point, big selling point, because they're raising their families. They want the city to grow. Our city managers, our council, we all want the city to grow. And so the decisions that we make, it comes back to like what I said at the very beginning. We can't have government building houses and putting people in them and apartments and not having money coming in. When you have someone that buys an apartment house and he rents it out and to 2 or 3 families, it's him, and the family feels a part of Meriden, and they're living here, and they're paying taxes, and it's a part of the whole family. But, you know, that's what I would say. And business, I will look into this because I've
Thank
been
you, Ms.
hearing
Masson.
for years.
Please pass the mic to the Reverend. Thank you.
Well, I've been also shopping for businesses to come here. I've spoken to Popeyes. I've spoken to Ashley Stewart's. I've spoken to several contractors that took care of our business inside of Brooklyn, and I asked them would they come here. So I got about 6 or 7 different corporations that's willing to come here and look at buildings. You know, I'm already doing this, and I'm not even the mayor. I want Meriden to thrive. Yes, I do. I think I'm a little, when it comes to housing, I think that we could do better. We can be a business-friendly Meriden without giving away our city at 80%, you know, and we get a tax return of 20%. I think that we have to economically break it down and see, is it really worth it? Can we go get somebody like Nehemiah Homes that will build it for a fraction of the cost? I'm not saying that we can't grow.
Thank you, Reverend. We're out of time.
But this is what we need to
Please,
do.
pass the mic to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. When I get to sit and talk with a potential business owner or someone seeking to move into Meriden, a developer who's looking at a site, I get to promote all that the city has. And I agree with Ms. Massey that without a doubt our #1 asset is our people, our greatly diverse population of 60,000 residents. I think secondly, obviously our location, right in the center of the state, is something that also helps prospective business owners or developers locate to our city. I think all that we have going on, we also market pretty heavily our TOD district, which is the downtown area, transit-oriented development, and all the benefits that go along with that. The East Main Street corridor, where we are seeing business development, that's because we sit down and we talk with these business owners and tell them what the assets are by moving into Meriden. And I mentioned it earlier, our new Meriden Match program, which is an incentive for small businesses to expand and grow in our city.
Thank you. Lee, please direct your question to Reverend Holloway.
Reverend Holloway, we've heard a lot from the state level about issues with revenue in the state budget. What areas of the city budget do you believe can be cut to avoid future tax increases?
I don't think that we should give organizations money. We gave away $10,000 for the 4th of July, and I just don't understand it. I think things like that, we don't need to give money to. I think that it should stand on its own. Not only them, all of the programs. One thing I loved about the Black Expo, they got up on their feet and they didn't ask for any more money. Everybody else kept on. I can't understand why are we giving money to people that raise money, that don't give free events to children. You know, I think that that money should go to programs that's gonna train our children up so they could be the future leaders. I know the state is saying that they don't have money, but I also like to look at some of their budgets and cut their budget too. But I believe that we can pull our bootstraps up and cut some of the things we do and put it in proper place.
Thank you, Reverend. Please pass the mic to Mr. Kevin.
This year, under the direction of our new city manager, Mr. Guy Scaife, we really took a new approach at the budget. It was pretty awesome to sit back and look at some of the new initiatives and cost-saving measures that we could come up with, and we haven't stopped being creative. I think some of the things we did this year, specifically, we bid out our health insurance, our liability insurance. We got lower quotes on that and saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. We upgraded our technology infrastructure to show a return on investment in just a few years that's going to save the taxpayers of this city. We improved our collection rate. So while yes, we want to look at cuts in our budget, we also have to see how we can increase our revenues. Not every time should we be sitting here looking at how we can cut our way out of issues. We need to see how we can improve and increase our revenues, how we can improve our property values. That's by bringing in new business, and that's something, when we increase our grand list, it's going to help out the overall tax base.
Thank you, Ms. Bassett.
I think that we need to increase our revenue. As far as the budget, I mean, I wasn't there for this budget, but I would think that the city manager certainly pulled it apart from what I'm reading in the paper. I just want to say that when I was city clerk for 24 years, I always came within my budget. And I added 5 extra hours a week with no overtime. I stayed open an hour later at night and also opened an hour earlier in the morning. And I did it by rotating my staff. Everybody was happy, they loved it until our former city manager, you know, changed it around, didn't want me opening that much. But it can be done. But, you know, it takes people with knowledge of finance that will study the budget.
Thank you. Pamela, please direct the final question of this panel to the mayor.
There will certainly be regular interaction between the city manager and the mayor. Can you describe what the proper relationship between the mayor and the city manager should be, not the mayor and the city council, mayor and the city manager?
Sure. The city manager and I currently have a very open relationship. We meet I think several times a week, whether it's face-to-face in the office or via phone calls or exchanging emails just over the weekend, as we did this past weekend. The city manager, while yes, he is the one who is coming up with the policies, doing the hiring, the firing, the mayor is the face of the city. The mayor is responsible for knowing a lot of the initiatives that the city manager is passing along to the council or coming up to pass along to his department heads. So it's important that you have a great relationship with your city manager. I pride myself on knowing a lot that happens in this city because it's important. That's my job. It's what I do. It's to know what happens in this city, to have my hand on the heartbeat of what's going on and realize that there's an issue, that the door is always open. I can talk to the city manager, we can work with the city council to figure out a way to fix and come up with a solution to any of the problems that we incur.
Thank you, Ms. Bassett.
The mayor and the city manager should definitely work together. There's no doubt about that. Why would one be going one way and the other one going another way? So if I get to be mayor, I would definitely think that I would work with the city manager.
Thank you, Reverend.
Well, I'm going to say this. If the relationship between our current mayor and the city manager is all that great, Harbor Brook still have bugs. Their windows are still falling out. Our kids are reading at 3rd and 4th grade levels. Our kids are dropping out of school. We have no program and initiative to bring the youth in. So I don't know how everything is so great. Now, can we make it better? Absolutely. We bring the young people in. We have them take part and see how the city runs. Now, as far as the relationship with me and the city manager, I don't know because I'm not the mayor. Will I try to get along with them? Yes. Will I agree on everything? No, because nobody agrees on everything. But will we, at the end of the day, be cordial and kind? Absolutely. But I am for Meriden, and I am for making it better, cheaper, and affordable. And they may not be what the city manager may be about. I don't know. I've never worked with him. But I am saying this.
Thank you, Reverend. Now we move to our final phase for this panel, the closing remarks. I will draw the names from this little cup here. First. And the third. Reverend, you have 1 minute to make closing remarks, followed by Mayor Scarpati and Ms. Massey.
Okay, 1 minute. I believe this. I believe Meriden can be great. I've seen pictures of what it used to look like and what it looks like now. I believe that somewhere we lost it and we can get it back. I believe the way we get it back is we take care of our seniors and our veterans and our children. I think that our veterans are forgot about. I think that our children sometimes are pushed to the side. And I think that if we brought the youth in and we trained them, we'll have a better tomorrow. Now, how can I make that happen? One step at a time. I agreed to have tea time so you can come tell me all about it, because I know what's going on in Meriden because I take the bus. And when you take the bus, them ladies don't mind telling you like it is. So I want to fix it. I don't want to put a Band-Aid on it. And when it's time that I can say, yes, we can do it, I'll say yes. And when I say, no, we can't do it, we just can't do it. I'm going to tell you the truth when nobody else don't want to tell
Thank
you.
you, Reverend. Please pass the mic over to Mayor.
I believe all three of us on this stage tonight want to see what's best for Meriden, want to see Meriden continue to move forward. I'm inspired on a daily basis, whether it's running youth sports programs or teaching at our city's youth, working on behalf of our seniors and veterans to benefit them through increased tax incentives. But knowing that I give them a voice is what gets me out of bed every day. It's been an honor to have served this community on the Meriden Board of Education, on the Meriden City Council, and now a term, and hopefully more, as your mayor. You must admit that it's encouraging to drive through this city and to be able to look and see the development and the cleaning up that's going on from corner to corner throughout the downtown and all the way up to the east side. We have plans just like this that are setting forward into the future. That's why I'm asking for your support and your vote on November 7th. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Massey? Hold your applause, please, to the end.
As many of you know, I was Meriden City Clerk for the past 24 years. I was endorsed by both the Democratic and the Republican and the We the People parties for over 20 of those years. I was an elected department head, doing a budget for those years, and proud to say kept within my budget. There was not a department head at City Hall that I did not work with. My office was open to everyone and would be available if someone needed to come in after hours or before. Like one time, 6 a.m., that I came down into the office, even had the janitor open because somebody needed a birth certificate to get onto the plane flight out of Bradley. I added 5 hours a week, like I said before, to our schedule with no overtime for anyone. Opened at 8 and stayed until 9, instead of 9. I had the opportunity of taking
Thank you, Ms.
to the
Massey.
citizens.
We're out of time. I wish to thank all the candidates for their insights and their articulation of their opinions. Let's give them a big round of applause. There'll be no break between this panel and our second panel of the evening of the City Council debate, so that's going to start right now. Okay, council members, candidates, candidates. If you would say the closest to me. Lenny Rich, Manny Santos, Bob Williams, Beth Bryant, Dan Renee, Josh Brookstrom. Bruce Fontanella, David Lowell, Darius Riddle, Michael Reynolds, Little Graham, Miguel Castro. To this panel, as did the first panel, let's hold your applause till the end. And please, no comments or anything until we finish. We want to make sure the candidates have an abundant opportunity to vocalize their views and positions on these critical issues facing the city of Meriden. I will now select to see which side gets the first question, and it's the Democrats. So we'll work. Each table has a mic, and you got to figure it out amongst yourself who's going to answer the question. We're not going to go to everyone. So, Paul, please ask your question to the Democrats, and the Republicans will respond after they finish. 1 minute.
Thank you. What do you feel is the role of the city councilor with respect to education?
Most of Meriden's budget goes toward the school system, and there's a very good reason for that. You see, the school system is the future of our city. I know for having served on the Board of Education. If we make wise decisions in investing in our children, we will have better educated, more thoughtful, and better citizens. That's why I support that.
Anyone else want to score 18 seconds?
18 seconds. We have a fantastic Board of Education who makes very responsible decisions working with the administration. Our role is to understand that that is very important, and they work well together to listen to their needs and appreciate the funding responsibility we have.
Okay, thank you very much. Republican rebuttal, please.
Yes, the city council's role in this is to allocate the funding. And what we do is we take into account the Board of Education's budget, we analyze it thoroughly, exactly, and allocate the funding appropriately. That is the city council's role. Obviously, when they get the money, they distribute it, they spend it as they see fit, and they do an outstanding job. We're very proud of what they've done, because we have level funded them for the last 2, 3, 4, some say 6 and 7 years, but I will say they do an outstanding job. But the council's role is allocating the money. They do the actual fundamentals of hiring, of classrooms, curriculum, everything's up to them.
Like any other department in City Hall, the Board of Education proposes their budget, and it's the responsibility of the City Council to look at that budget and allocate the funds that they deem fit to it. And as we've said, we have a great Board of Education.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, any questions from the Republicans, please?
Residents recently spoke out against the renewal of a liquor permit for 105 Restaurant and Lounge on Colony Street after a controversy regarding a shooting and exotic dancers. Would you be in favor of giving this business another chance? What kind of businesses would you like to see in the downtown?
I don't know if I'd want to give them another chance. I think I'd rely on our public safety officers to give us some direction, our city manager, and quite frankly, to get under the covers. So I don't know that I would. I think I'd have to rely on people around me. Certainly, we don't need elements that are bringing in problems and in particular shootings. I think we all want to see restaurants. I think we want to see a gathering place, a point of reference where people are going to come to Meriden. They're going to sit, they're going to say hey to their associates, be it in town or out of town, come to Meriden, let's have dinner. So that's my position on that thought.
I would be in favor of giving them a second chance. The facts behind that particular issue are not accurate. If we want to attract bars and restaurants, cafes in our downtown, we have to make it viable for these businesses. This includes police presence.
Thank you.
Whenever there is an issue.
Democrats, it's your turn to respond.
The use of alcohol and the service of alcohol is heavily regulated by the state of Connecticut. So I would believe that if that restaurant was able to pass the rigors of the examination by the liquor commissioners, that they would be able to reinstate their license, but only if they pass the requirements of the liquor commission. With regard to what
businesses are entitled to, should be downtown. I think this is this is going to be the goal of the next city council, and that is to attract people or attract businesses to the buildings that have already been built and occupied by residents. So it's the attraction of commercial businesses that's the next goal in the revitalization of Meriden. And I would focus on retail businesses such as restaurants, dry cleaners, grocery stores, and other establishments that would service the foot traffic in Meriden.
Oh, thank you. Pamela, please direct your question to the Democrats.
We are, and I'm representing the Chamber of Commerce in Meriden, and what are your opinions on city incentives to recruit and retain growing businesses? Do we have enough? Do we need more? Are there certain ones that you like? On the east side, incentive zone seems to have worked. Are there plans for things like that on the other side of town? What's your feeling on that whole area?
So thank you very much for the question. There's no question that we didn't get where we are overnight as a city. And we have a responsibility for public-private partnerships. And I am absolutely supportive of incentives. And Pam, thank you. You mentioned the East Side Corridor and the incentives there. And immediately after that, we saw two new businesses develop and soon to be open up there. One was the renovation of an existing business that was a long-standing family business here in the city, and the other one is a new development. And those are the kinds of things we need. Downtown being the core of our city, absolutely. That's where most of the shovels are in the ground right now for a whole host of reasons. You asked a question about the west side. Yes, both south, north, east, and west need the same consideration for economic development. We are land poor in some of those areas, so development isn't always an
Thank you very
opportunity.
much. Republicans, please, your turn to respond to the question.
Absolutely. One of our obstacles is we're a very land-poor community. There's nowhere to build. We're built out. What we have to do is start repurposing more, developing the small parcels that we have, and also, like as he mentions, the East Main Street corridor. The East Main Street corridor has seen outstanding growth, all the way from 91 to the Middlefield border. Some of the incentives we've had, I think we're changing the perception of Meriden a bit. Out the east side, I think we're doing an outstanding job with our road work, our housing. We have a great citizenry out there. And I believe that's some of the obstacles, some of the benefits we have right now.
Yes, we have been giving great incentives for people to come in and build low-income housing, adequate housing, which is needed. We should do the same for anyone who comes in with private investment money. We should also guarantee them certain giveaways so that it's competitive with Wally.
Okay, thank you. We're out of time for that. Paul, please direct your question to the Republican.
Yes, I'm going to ask the same question that I asked the mayor candidates because I'd like your input on this. With the recent hurricanes in Puerto Rico, the city will be experiencing and has been experiencing an influx of families from Puerto Rico. Would you be willing to consider an increase to some city budgets that might include Health and Human Services as well as the Board of Education to serve these children and families?
Thank you very much. I feel it's absolutely important to visit our budget, determine where we can make appropriate cuts, and give each and every individual who deserves a hand up, a helping hand, to give them that exactly. But we really do need to look at the current budget. We need to determine what can be cut, and we need to determine where we can reallocate the funds.
Yeah, I just close on that. The latest reports that we have had, we've had 15 new students that are associated with this issue. I don't know how many more in the future, but those are some of the numbers that are preliminary right now. As far as funding, I think there's plenty of space in our school system right now to benefit any new students. Beyond that, I think it's under review right now. Thank you.
Democrats, do you wish to answer that question?
Well, there's a number of resources that are currently in place because of the devastation that Puerto Rico has recently faced. As we all know, it's an island 100 miles long by 35 miles wide, and there's going to be a possibility of a number of people leaving the island and coming into our community. The relief package that has been approved at the federal level because of their leadership our federal delegation, and federal delegations all throughout that have been at the forefront to make sure that the relief package includes an additional relief for local Board of Educations and municipalities to make sure that these families, American citizens, our own brothers and sisters, can actually have the transition, the proper transition they need. And as far as the local budget is concerned, that's something they would like to explore possibilities to make sure that we create additional resources.
Okay, time. Lee, please direct your question to the Democratic candidates.
West Hartford resident Sahito Sajudi, an undocumented immigrant from Indonesia who's been in the country for 30 years, took sanctuary at a Meriden church the other week. Would you be in favor of Meriden becoming a sanctuary city?
The current policies that are right now on the books since the early 1780s all the way to 1875, if you look at what those immigration policies were defined, were for the only purpose to continue to embrace possible segregation and discrimination against a certain part of the population that was immigrating to America, all the way to the 1930s, the 40s, and the 50s, when the Jewish people wanted to, or they were escaping because of political persecution in Germany. Now, if we really look at this from the perspective of what is broken, it is a possibility that we can embrace policies that are currently broken to make sure that we continue to embrace and help the people that need the assistance, that deserve to be here. The rhetoric that we're hearing today is that we are demonizing and criminalizing people.
For the Republican response to that question.
This is really a problem that should be addressed at the federal level. What we could do at the state level, now keep in mind that the previous presidential administration as well as Congress failed miserably on passing some realistic immigration reform. It is illegal to be here without authorization. Any individual who is undocumented is here illegal and should be treated through the court process. And there is a process in place that the court system has been called on to take care of these issues as they arise. Some of these cases are very delicate. They have families that are significantly impacted. And in the court system, unfortunately, is the only way to address these issues.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I feel like neither candidate actually answered that question. Through a show of hands, can both parties just say if you would be in favor of Meriden becoming a sanctuary city?
I'm not going to show my hand because I think it's a much deeper question than that, so I think that's an unfair question.
Santalario?
C.
Okay, Pam, please direct your question to the Republican candidates.
What should be the proper relationship between the council and the city manager?
I'll start off with it. Listen, it's got to be cordial. It's got to be respectful. I think as Mayor Scarpati said, listen, there's going to be differences between people. We have a new gentleman who's recently come in, and with any new CEO, they're going to redirect the ship. And quite frankly, some people are going to have an issue with it. Some aren't, but that's just business. I think there has to be a respectful relationship. We have to communicate. And I think if we're communicating and we have a respectable relationship amongst both parties, we can also agree to disagree, but we've got to keep things moving forward. And I think he's doing a good job.
I'll add a few things to that. I think the relationship between the city manager and the city council is very good. I mean, when I'm in a leadership meeting, he's very open, he's very honest. Myself, majority leader, it's great. Maybe there's a couple councilors that may disagree with him, but the vast
Thank
majority
you.
agree.
Democrats, candidates, please answer that question.
I think that anytime there's change, there's going to be some speed bumps, and I think that we've certainly, as a city, as a council, we've hit a few, but I think that overall, we've given the city council, the city manager, the ability to execute his plan. Just as anybody that's new in their position, no one wants to be micromanaged. I don't think that's the city council's position or job to micromanage him as well. I think we give him his responsibility is to attain the budget that he set forth, and I think it's our job to hold him to that. I endorse so far what the city manager has done, and I think he's doing a good job leading us.
City manager is also a contract employee, and that contract is up for renewal to be approved by city council.
Okay, thank you. Paul, please direct your question to the Democratic candidates.
Yes, this next question pertains to technology and education. And first of all, kind of a two-part question. What is your view of using technology in public education? And specifically, would you support an increase to their budget to help pay for the cost of that?
I do it every day. I'm a high school teacher. We need it. This helps to train the workforce of tomorrow. However, there is a downside. Artificial intelligence is taking a lot of jobs away. There are online services that we want to keep from replacing teachers in the classroom. So I would work with the teachers' unions and with the Board of Ed to make sure that technology is used for the best interests of the students.
As a member of the school building committee that just finished the completion of the two renovated and new high schools, we made every attempt, and we succeeded in every attempt, to put the finest and the most up-to-date technology in the high schools. This, I know, is through the Board of Education, has also been followed through the rest of the school systems. So I think Meriden has nobody.
Republicans, please respond to the question.
Could you have, please?
A two-part question. First, the role you feel that technology plays in public education or should play, and then would you, if you think it plays a role, would you support an increase to the budget to help pay for the cost of some of that technology?
Thank you. Anyone that thinks technology is going to slow down in this day and age is wrong. Students are ahead of the older people like myself. When I have a problem with my computer, I ask Carly. She's 16, 18 years old. Or any other one of my grandchildren. Do I support it? Absolutely. Do we need it? Would I support it in a financial sense? I leave that to the experts who are teaching our schools, who are leading our schools. Our superintendent and his staff has done an excellent job. I do not know what they need per se, but basic technology, yes, I'm sure they're aware of it. Thank you.
I would definitely support technology. Again, we built 2 state-of-the-art high schools, so I'm hoping that they'll be up and running for several decades, and we don't have to consider it there, but I think it's an important element of education, 100%.
Thank you. Lee, please direct your question to the Republican candidates.
Penrose Properties is planning on putting 2 market-rate housing developments on Meriden Green, and another company is planning to redevelop the abandoned Meriden Wallingford Hospital into a market-rate senior and commercial development. Do you believe tax abatement programs should be given to these market-rate developments, and what kind of incentives would you offer them?
There's definitely opportunity to give tax abatements and tax incentives to bring market rate housing developments into this city. That's exactly what this city needs. We need market rate apartments. We need the residents with their disposable income to then support the businesses that we hope to attract. Our downtown is not a very thriving downtown at the moment. With more residents, businesses will look at the demographics as well as our median incomes and then make a decision whether Meriden is the right city for them or not. And with market rate housing, it will become the right city for many businesses.
the difference between Penrose and the people that are going to develop the hospital is, one is private investment funds, and I would support them as much as we possibly can. Penrose is going to get more than
Thank
enough money.
you. Democrats, please answer that question.
Yes, thank you, and it's a great question. So we have a multi-phased approach to the redevelopment of Meriden. And as I said before, we didn't get where we are overnight, and we're not going to get out of it. Penrose actually is building 2 developments. Right now, Meriden Commons Phase 1 is going up. Then we'll have Phase 2, and the Meriden Green Phase 1 and Phase 2 are what you refer to as the market rate. And absolutely, those qualify within the TOD and enterprise zone, as does One King Place. Attracting them to redevelop the existing hospital is a fantastic opportunity. And while we did that, we walked them across the street and showed them the medical building, 116 Cook Avenue and Factory H, which we've secured a lot of money to mitigate those properties. They're interested in developing both properties down there at market rate, and they do qualify for enterprise zone, and I absolutely support that. So these phased approaches to the redevelopment of Meriden are what's going to make us successful over time.
Thank you. Pam, please direct your question to the Democratic candidates.
Stay a little bit with that topic because we're developing downtown Meriden. There needs to be a lot of coordination with activities. Lots of separate efforts are going on, but no real coordination. And once this happens, how should it be funded? Should it be a district tax set aside for the district activities, or a general tax revenue from the entire city?
Another great question, and not necessarily an easy question at face value. So there is an effort through our chamber and business owners to look at the core of downtown in the TOD and look at a privately managed zone down there where the primary stakeholders of the businesses take a lead role in how successful they each are independently but collectively. I think the quality of life in the city as a whole does depend on the health of the core of the downtown. I do think the reality is that the general city population and budget will bear some of the responsibility for the creation and maintenance of a healthy downtown. But as we grow our tax base, the burden to the residents equalizes or lessens. So I think we need to promote that and see how it develops.
Thank you. Republican candidates, please respond to that question.
Thank you. Firstly, we need to be more business friendly and make it easier for someone to start a business, particularly downtown. Right now, there's too many roadblocks and not enough help from new small business owners. Secondly, we need to stop filling our downtown with low-income housing, because if a business is going to survive and help support the community, there needs to be people downtown with disposable income. They need to be people who can afford to shop at a boutique, go out to a restaurant, etc.
That's a very complicated question. It truly is. It's a great question, by the way. I guess in my mind, one half of my mind is saying, well, how much do we give away with incentives and tax credits? So, we're trying to basically increase our tax base to help the taxpayers. But I agree that I think...
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't think.
Paul? Please direct your questions to the Republicans.
There are many examples across the country of American cities being divided by race. As a city councilor, what do you think is important for the city to do to prevent race from becoming an issue in the city?
Race should never be an issue in any city. Meriden is a great city. I've met many great people going door to door. I've worked with many great people over the past decade in my previous attempts at trying to hold elected office. We need... Okay. Someone in the front row. All right. We need to work together to make sure we include everybody. Everyone has different ideas, different backgrounds, different concerns. We need to listen to everyone. We need to take their concerns for what they are and not write them off because we may not understand, agree why they're coming from where they're coming from, but we need to work together to understand everyone.
I want to throw another part of this conversation. We talk about race. What about our special needs? Okay? So this thing crosses a number of different boundaries. I think it comes down strictly to communication. And we can agree to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think we have to do it respectfully when there is that
Thank you very much.
conversation.
Democrats, it's your turn to respond to that question. Can you get the question?
There are many examples across the country of American cities being divided by race. As a city councilor, what would you do, or what programs would you support to prevent this from happening, this division happening in Meriden?
Well, wherever you go, you're going to see race issues. It's not going to go away unless you talk about the issues. You have to have an open forum such as this to speak about the issues. People are scared to speak about the issues and have an open forum. As African American man, I see how I get treated differently in different neighborhoods. It doesn't affect me, but I'm a human, so I go through the day and know what I am.
Yeah, I believe that, that race or division, race doesn't start when you're an adult. It starts as a child. It's a learned behavior. It's taught by parents. One of the things that I do to try and break down those racial barriers is I volunteer over 500 hours per year to youth sports, trying to be a role model to all. And I just think that as a city manager, or excuse me, city councilor, or a leader in the city, that we all should be driven by that creed.
Thank you. Lee, please direct your question to the Democratic candidates.
Similar as I asked to the mayoral candidates, this has been a really tough budget year. What areas of the budget do you believe can be cut to avoid future tax increases?
What part of the budget I would like to cut? That's your question? Okay. This past budget, as the budget process really took life, we increased our mill rate 39.92. That also includes a 2.4 mill rate for the inner city. We're talking about $193.5 million budget. You know, our caucus and our team, our peeps, our colleagues here on the council really came to the table and were extremely creative to look at possibilities and alternative in partnership with the city manager to make sure we come to the table and be fiscally responsible, keeping in mind our taxpayers and what is it that we can do further. Most people will probably come in and continue to express their concern about spending, but what most people need to understand is that we had a number of years where we never committed to our obligations. Now that we are paying off our obligations.
Thank you very much. Republican candidates, please answer that question.
You're asking how to cut the budget, and my old saying is, it's not what you make, it's what you spend. If you watch your expenses, you can control your budget. We are locked in on expenses right now. The two high schools just went into our bonding expense, and we're paying dearly for the mistakes of the past. I'm not saying the high schools weren't needed or aren't nice. I'm just saying we wasted a lot of money that didn't go into those high schools. And we are paying it into the old nemesis, PLA. We're paying roughly $50,000 to $60,000 a month for 30 years. That's the cost. That's the budget we're under. We also have increases in payroll. 80% of our budget is payroll. If you give them a 2% increase or a 2.5% increase, it's hard to keep the budget in place. I give our town manager credit for the budget job he did this year to save money in the future.
Thank you. Pam, please direct your question to the Republican candidates.
Okay, as a city councilor, what is your top priority that you feel must be accomplished during your 4-year term?
Yeah, I really believe we need to capitalize on some of the projects we have going. We need to change the perception of Meriden. We want to have a a view that people want to come here, want to be inclusive, want to spend money here. That's why I have some issues with the tax breaks that we've given downtown, the preponderance of low-income housing. These are the same ideas and thoughts that they had in the 60s and 70s. And where are we today? And almost the same model taking place. That's why I have an issue with the perception of Meriden. That doesn't change the perception of Meriden. And that's what my goal is in the next 4 years, do everything possible to change the perception and encourage growth.
Thank you. Living in the downtown area, our first immediate need is to fill our businesses. How can we do that? Very simply, we need a small business liaison. And it can be someone who is currently working for the city. This person will help new business owners. The person will help them navigate the system, challenge of starting a new business.
Democrats, your turn to answer that question.
So my top priority would be to continue the momentum we've started. Flood control and the downtown development at its core, to increase the opportunities for the market rate development. Businesses will attract businesses. Incrementally, we're seeing that happen now, and we're right on the precipice of it exploding downtown. This is different than the 60s and 70s. We're talking about mixed income. We're talking about mixed use. The studies that we have invested in show the success of these across our state in places like Stanford and in other states like Boston to increase the viability of our community.
Yes, grow the grand list across a broad base of incomes. New business will inspire new growth will increase property values will keep property taxes stable.
Thank you. Paul, please direct your question to the Democratic candidates.
So this is a question in regards to the Choice Neighborhood Initiative. We've talked a lot off and on about that particular initiative. In terms of your role as a city councilor, what do you think the role of the city council should be in regards to the Choice Neighborhood Initiative that exists in Meriden?
So our role is to advocate for the development in the present and future long-term goals of Meriden. It's about the interrelationship of our school system, our housing, our businesses in the core, but then throughout the city. We need to be advocates for that. We need to be educators of ourselves first and then the public. We need to be proponents of the opportunity to leverage the financial incentives that come to our city that would go to other cities. The money's there, the money's going out for coordinated plans. We have expertly coordinated plan of development that, again, over the long term is going to get Meriden in a much more prosperous environment. So, do you have anything? Guess that's
Okay,
it for us.
thank you. Republican candidates, please respond to that question.
Yeah, the Choice Neighborhood, it was a very complex partnership, and it carried with it a number of phases, and it really had to do with the moving of residents out of the mills. And in order to do that, certain things had to take place, including getting the mills residents involvement in doing that. And the overall plan wasn't all that bad. The part of it that I didn't particularly think was a good idea whatsoever is the number of low income and affordable housing that was incorporated. That is where we missed our mark. If we hadn't done, if we hadn't concentrated so much on that, I think it would have been very
Thank you.
successful.
Lee, please direct your question to the Republican candidates.
Other than holding regular cleanup initiatives, what can the city do to address blight and safety in neighborhoods such as Springdale Avenue?
The city of Meriden over the years has implemented a very strong blight policy, blight ordinances. We have a very proactive code enforcement group. I know whenever I call Tom Kilroy, he's there and he takes care of it. As far as specific areas, obviously there's more difficult areas than others. Springdale area is more difficult than I'm going to have up on Murray Street and the Sunset area. So the initiatives are in place. We need to enforce them. Very clear, very simple.
We also need to utilize the resources that we have through the Council of Neighborhoods, which is a phenomenal group. They bring a lot to the city. They bring a lot of community involvement. They're willing to do community service hours with the students who need them to graduate. And I feel that they are imperative to us keeping a clean city and a thriving city.
We need to find people. Very simply put, a lot of these are repeat offenders. We need to find them.
Thank you. Democrats, please respond to the question.
Well, thank you. I believe that we have currently a number of resources from the city side and the community side that have embraced not only the possibilities, but also have continued the effort to point out some of the challenges that our communities are facing. But not only that we have pointed out some of those challenges, but we have also gotten our neighborhood associations involved, a community involved, our inspectors, our housing inspectors involved, that have been a critical part of a process that have continued efforts to change some of the areas that are troubling in our city. We not only have addressed those issues, also in partnership with our public safety, our local police department that we have through our police initiative unit, that have continued efforts to make sure that these issues not only were addressed, but they're also corrected.
Okay, thank you. We're out of time. Pam, please direct your question to the Democratic candidates.
Okay, currently there's more than 1 million square foot of vacant commercial in downtown Meriden. How do we best fill this space, and what is your idea to incentivize the first businesses to give them courage to come down and be the first? Currently, there is more than 1 million square feet of vacant commercial space in downtown Meriden. And we wonder how to best fill that space. We've had a lot of conversations about it. What do you think should be the incentive to get the first businesses to come down?
I mean, the first way to get business downtown is to get people the train station getting going and getting the 26 trains going each day, getting people to see downtown Meriden and see how good it's going to look and how good it's going to be. The businesses you want downtown are the restaurants, grocery stores, the retail stores to get started.
The new train station will be a great help in bringing new customers to those businesses, as will redoing the streets going in 2 ways so that traffic can access these new businesses.
So 23 seconds. We have over 100 million, $100 million already in place that is currently in its way to be invested in our city. Over 295 new housing units with a number of incentives that are embracing possibilities for local business that are currently taking advantage of some of those.
Thank you. We're at time. Republicans, please respond to that question.
Most of the retail space down in downtown Meriden is associated with buildings that are going to pay little, if any, taxes. I'm more interested in the tax base that we have now and saving it. We have 10 of our biggest taxpayers, 10% of our budget. Has anyone made a committee suggestion for these people? We should form a committee for these people to get them invested and get them on the committee and let them think of ways to save something like the Westfield Shopping Mall. It's in trouble. What are we going to do if we lose that tax base? Has anybody done a contingency plan? I've asked, there are none. Why not? There was no contingency plan to clean Harbor Brook, but yet we spent $13 million to renovate it. The place looks good, but I hope we keep the pipes clean this time around. There is a waste going on, and it's not in investment.
Okay, thank you. We're at time. We'll have each panelist will ask one more question. Then we'll go to closing remarks from each of you for 1 minute. We'll get through 3 more questions first. Paul, please direct your question to the Republican candidates.
Yes, a number of you have mentioned this evening changing the perception of Meriden. So what do you think needs to happen in order to change that perception? And what is the council's role in changing that perception?
The council's role is to be a proactive role. The councilors need to be down there showing people that want to commit to Meriden what we have and what is coming down to Meriden. I took a proactive role years ago when I started up a defunct commission, parking. Now with the help of the new city manager, we have a vibrant parking. We have parking downtown. It's slow and it's coming, but you have to start somewhere.
Thank you. As a mom, I see that all of our residents have one commonality. It doesn't matter whether you're a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, mom or dad, we have our children. And if we can get our kids invested in their future, in our community, by creating safer communities, safer streets, providing things like, well, a basketball court for our
Thank you.
children
We're
in
at
Area
time.
1, that would be great.
Democrats, would you like to answer that question, please?
Yes, please. I think that everyone should be an advocate for Meriden. Quite frankly, we're all in this together. I have been an advocate of Meriden now for over 40 years, and I'm sure you've heard me say that if you don't like Meriden, then leave. I am very proud of my community. I think we have a robust education. We have wonderful programs for our youth to participate in. And just recently, actually, I just was given some stats on even our high school graduation and their attendance in college. 66% of all of our students, Black, Hispanic, and white, attend a 2 to 4 year college.
New businesses providing new jobs will bring more people here. We also need to promote ourselves better, make better use of media, particularly television and online. I would definitely support that.
Thank you. Lee, please direct your question to the Democratic candidates.
Honing in on the issue of diversity, last year a teacher filed a lawsuit against the city's school system alleging racial discrimination and unfair hiring practices. Although Meriden has a diverse student population, staff falls behind state averages. What can be done to increase diversity of teachers and administrators in the school system?
It's to the Democrats.
52% of our school populations are minorities. We have 13,000 Latinos, over 3,000 African Americans in our community. We have 60,000 plus residents in our community. There is a large demographics in our city. We need a larger representation, not only in local government, but also in our school system. There is the time where we have to engage in discussions. Currently we have had engaged in discussions with the NAACP, with local clergy and leaders and advocates to continue to embrace the possibilities of embracing diversity. Diversity is critical. It's been part of our community. We are a melting pot. Discrimination also it's in our system, in our schools. We need to address some of those concerns to make sure that our kids, our children...
Thank you. We're at time. Republican candidates, so please respond to that question. Lee?
Last year, a former Meriden teacher filed a lawsuit against the school system alleging racial discrimination and unfair hiring practices. Although Meriden has a diverse student population, staff falls behind state averages. What can be done to increase the diversity of teachers and administrators in the school system?
Okay, again, you're talking a situation that is controlled and is orchestrated by the Board of Education. And to my knowledge, I have 6 students in my, six teachers in my family. And from what I hear, they are doing everything possible to get the minority teachers into the schools. Everything you can think of. They're trying to recruit far and wide. But the result is they don't want to come here. You can't force people to come here. The jobs are there, the openings are there, and they are trying desperately to accommodate anyone that wants to come this way, especially the minorities, but it hasn't happened.
Yeah, our school board and our administrators have been putting a lot of effort into getting that that very thing done. And in fact, they go out of state for recruiting efforts as well.
Thank you. Pam, please direct your question to the Republican candidates. This will be our final question of the evening.
The summer youth program has lost its funding, 300 applications and 100 kids. Do you believe that this is a function the city should pay for? And if not the city, how would you expect to fund the program to continue?
I think we have to find a way to do it. Again, these are things that, we just don't have a bucket of money that we can go to either and pull out a pot of gold, but I think it's a critical program that we somehow, some way, need to find a way to fund it for these, quite frankly, these children. It's probably the only square meal a lot of them get on a daily basis. So I will talk to a guy.
We got to look at prioritizing our spending. We only have a limited amount of revenue, but the most that we could control is our spending. There are certain things in that budget, and I vetoed dozens of things when I was in office, only to have them overridden. But things such as, let's say, maybe a linear trail that we may not need, maybe how about fireworks? Do you guys want this instead of what you just asked for with
Thank you.
youth programs?
Democrats, it's your turn to respond to that question.
Well, it's easy to start comparing, bonded projects with, actual dollars that can actually come out of our general fund. Those don't go together. Our youth employment program is a critical part of our city. But the city has really put some of their efforts providing in-kind. There's over 300 kids that apply, and only 100 kids can probably get the opportunity to be employed. There's a number of factors in this process, and that process includes kids that will supplement some of their economic challenges at home, but also the opportunity to experience an employment opportunity.
Summer programs need to come back to Meriden. I was an advocate and a runner of the Meriden Assembly for the past 10 years, and it helps the kids keep up the streets. It keeps them positive, it keeps them busier in the summer, so you don't have as much stuff going on. But now that we don't have the program, we need something else.
Thank you very much. Okay, right now we're going to go to individual candidates. The Democrats won the toss and elected to receive in the first half of this. So we're going to go to the Republicans. Each one of you will have 1 minute to make a closing statement on any issue that you feel is important for this audience and the audience at home or online to understand. So please, Mr. Rich, if I can start with you, and we'll go right down the line. And then Bruce, on the Democrat side, you can lead off. But we're just going to go right down the line. We're not going to bat it back and forth, just for efficiency.
You all know me. I'm running for city council at large. I'm running for my second term. I'm running mainly because we have a chance in this election to gain control of the council. In my 4 years, I've seen an awful lot that I did like. I've seen an awful lot that I didn't like. But the power is not there. We don't make the agenda, and we don't decide the rules. We had 5 of 12 councilors on our side. We could not win a vote. We don't have a chairmanship of any of the committees. We are outvoted every time. Common sense does not prevail as far as I'm concerned. I came back to the table again. I'm running for re-election because we do have a chance with the slate that we have this year to accomplish something in the next 4 years. Yes, I'll be 80 when I get out, but I think I can afford to do it.
Thank you. Please hold your applause to the end. Thank you.
If I should be so fortunate as to have your vote for city councilman, I will fight just as hard as I did as your mayor for the taxpayer. One of my objectives is to stop the amount or the expansion of low-income housing in our downtown. We do that with marketing, market rate developments. Another thing, we have to demand that our city officials and every employee do everything legally possible to accommodate our businesses. If we do not increase our tax base, including our businesses, that, by the way, provide 90% of jobs, our businesses, if we don't create more jobs, especially downtown, we are going to be in trouble because our tax base is not going to expand. So I'm asking you for your vote November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Listen, I don't have a magic wand. I'm going to speak for myself. I mean, what you see is what you get. Day in and day out, when I'm confronted or I run into a constituent, I just try to do what's being asked of me. And quite frankly, I don't have a problem putting my head down every night about what I do here for the citizens of Meriden. And truly, it has been an honor. One of the biggest things I'd like to accomplish, and I've talked about it over my 8-year term, referendum. I think there needs to be charter revision for referendum. I think you as the citizens of Meriden should have a direct voice in what happens on big ticket items in the city of Meriden. There's a different philosophy and a different thought process out there on that, but I think that's critical in my mind. Again, it's been an honor to serve you over the last 8 years. I hope you consider voting for me again in November, and God bless Meriden and God bless our great country.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, please.
Thank you very much. Firstly, as I've said, we need to become more business friendly. If we're not more business friendly, businesses aren't going to come. We're not going to reap the rewards of the tax benefits that we should be receiving. Secondly, we need to eliminate the influx of low-income housing. And living in Area 1, I can tell you that we do need a small business liaison to help our small businesses. One of the first things that I will do as a city councilor, should I be elected, is getting a basketball court for our children in Area 1. They've asked for it, they've been waiting for it, it's not there. Also, we need a replacement for our skateboard park, formerly at high school. We're not engaging these kids. We're not giving them something to do. And as a proud football mom, former elected official, educator, advocate, and concerned citizen, I look forward to becoming a member of the council.
Thank you.
And making the necessary changes.
Dan?
Yeah, currently, in office, I was going on my 3rd term. I know very early on, there were checks and balances. We had 3 minority members. We had a big impact on discussion was going on, had an opposing voice, creating the checks and balances that you need in healthy government. As the 2nd term went, we developed a few more So, at that point, it became an agent of reason. We had a common sense, looking at each thing in a very rational manner. I mean, we agree on some things, we disagree strongly on others. I mean, it's too generous tax breaks. They were much too generous. I felt we put forward an anti-nepotism policy. It was watered down dramatically. And that was something that had an impact on my 1st term with our police department and other departments. Now, what we need to do is really change the perception of Meriden. Change the perception of Meriden. You have to make this group the majority. That's the #1 thing to do. That's going to really
All right, thank you. John, please, 1 minute.
You think after how many times I've been up here, I have this down by now. But I don't, so. But joking aside, I'm a product of Meriden, grew up on the North End, went to Catholic school in Meriden, went to Maloney, got a bachelor's in finance from CCSU. I continue to want to serve for the public because I believe in the public, and I believe in the position of the city council. I have no problem working with anyone, both with my party and against. In fact, before I even knew LaRue Graham, I met him working at Jack Berry because I was a product of Jack Berry, and he was a longtime coach, and I enjoyed my time working with him there. But I want to be a city councilor because I want to give back to the city. So is everyone up on this table? We just have different ways of doing it. So if you want responsible spending, you want lower taxes, and you want to make everyone happy in the city of Meriden, please vote for me and my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce?
I was raised in Meriden, Connecticut. I was educated in the public schools, graduating from Maloney High School in 1967. I've lived in Meriden my whole life, and I've made my living in Meriden my whole life also, starting with waiting tables and tending bar at the old Jacoby's up on East Main Street. And I also taught school in Wilcox and Maloney High School. And for the last 30 years, I practiced law on East Main Street and on West Main Street and Broad Street in the area of Elder Law. I've tried to give back to the city as much as I could as a member of the Board of Education and Charter Revision Committees and the School Building Committee. And several years ago, our city leaders decided to revitalize the Meriden downtown. We are now years into that project. I would like to be, as a member of the City Council, enter that team and be part of that team to finish the project and get to the finish line.
Thank you.
David Lowell.
Thank you. I'd like to thank our panelists and our moderator tonight, and for you, our citizens coming out and listening, whatever party you're siding with. I've had the honor and the privilege to serve for the last 4 years on the City Council. I've learned a lot from many of our citizens, from my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. It has truly been an honor. I am interested in continuing for the next 4 years. I think Meriden is on the right path. The low income is a one-for-one replacement so that we can get the mills down and move forward with the development of market rates. So you can't get to one without mitigating the other and getting the mills down. Beyond that, we have the opportunity to develop One King Place, 116 Cook Avenue. I have served honorably on economic development, the public safety and human services, and I'm looking forward to continuing to serve, to listen, and to make responsible decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Darius?
Hi, my name is Darius Rhythm, if you don't know me. I'm basically running for city council for my kids. I want to make a difference for the community. I have 2 young kids, Jack and Jabari, and I see how the city is turned around, and I want to continue to turn the city around. I want to work with both Democrats and Republicans to make the best decision for Meriden. That's the only decision that matters. I can assure y'all I'll work the hardest to get everything done I can, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Michael?
Let me start by recapping some of the things our opponents had to say tonight. They back investment in small businesses. They back the 2 high schools. They back tax abatements. They back public safety. They support education. They support transparency, televised public comment. This from my opponent's campaign literature. And they created small anti-nepotism policy. I am glad to see our opponents supporting so many Democratic initiatives. Even Irene loves the green. Where do they differ? They say they can do it cheaper. That's pretty much it. Folks, my father had a name for Republicans like that. He called them dime store Democrats. The fact of the matter is, you can't do it cheaper. You cannot shrink your way to greatness. You can only do it less well. And that will leave us less safe and less blue.
Please, 1 minute.
Thank you. I've had the privilege of being city councilor for the last 5 years. I'm proud of the level-headed way that I've attacked and approached each task at hand. Long before I was a city councilor, I've been a big volunteer in this community, volunteering over 500 hours for the last 10 plus years to our youth. Some of the things that I've accomplished and some of the initiatives that I've accomplished I'm very proud of is, as chair of public safety, we have a quarterly forum where people have a voice, where there's more transparency. Also, the opioid crisis group that I've helped start and create with Crystal and David Lowell. In addition to that, I've heard a lot of people say that, Meriden can be great again. I'm here to tell you that Meriden is already great. And if given the opportunity, I'd like to continue to be part of positivity.
Thank you. Miguel?
Thank you to the moderator, to everyone, to the panelists. I have been a proud Meriden resident for the last 20 years. I'm a proud husband, father of 4, and grandfather of 3 beautiful boys. I've represented Area 1 in the district that I learned to love and that I lived in. I believe in the vision of revitalizing our city and supporting projects that bring in positive change to Meriden. It's my mission. The downtown district unfortunately suffered slow growth due to recurring costly flooding and decline of the manufacturing industry. During my time on the city council, we successfully completed the award-winning Meriden Green flood control project and are now watching other former manufacturing sites come back to life. I am so proud of our innovative efforts to reduce flooding risks while at the same time creating value to our downtown by transforming a former flood
Thank you
zone
very much.
to a
We're at
walkway.
time right there. Thank you. I'd like to thank each of the candidates for appearing tonight and responding to the questions fully and with great passion. I get around the block in this country giving speeches, and we have some good choices. Great people. Make sure you get out and vote for the candidate, and you think it's best. But believe me, you're very fortunate in Meriden to have candidates of this caliber. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Meriden Children First Initiative, the Midstate Chamber of Commerce, and the Record Journal Publishing Company, as well as the Meriden Public Schools, especially the staff at Washington Middle School, for use of the excellent facilities here. You know, I'm a product of Meriden Public Schools up here, and Meriden is always right here. Thank you very much for coming.